Hi, my name is Sebastian Medina, and for my personal growth project, I decided to learn how to drive a stick shift. Now there's two main reasons why I chose this. The first one is that back in my home country, Colombia, most cars are stick shifts. So, growing up, I was used to seeing people shifting through gears in their cars, and it always seemed pretty cool to it. I was always drawn to it, and I knew I had to learn at some point in my life. And the second reason was that earlier this year, I had a motorcycle on the summertime. And the underlying concepts between one and the other, pretty much the same thing. Skills are different, but the concepts are pretty similar. So I thought it'd be a pretty smooth transition, going from one to the other. And it was. It really helped me. It really helped a lot. As far as my mentor, it was of course my dad. He's been driving a stick shift all his life, and he's my dad. He's taught me a lot of things already. He knows how to teach me, and he's patient with. The feedback he gave me, I'd say the main thing was to be patient, focus on one thing at a time. So, there's a lot of things you gotta do while driving a stick shift. It's like a whole process when you get inside the car, especially when you're starting out. After time goes by, you don't even notice it. It becomes second nature. But starting out, it can get really stressful at times. So it was good to have him not next to me because it was, via video calls, I guess, because he's down in South Florida. But he really helped me out because I got really stressed at the beginning. And as far as me handling his advice, I'd say I took it pretty positive. I didn't take anything personal. And he was pretty objective. When I messed up, he really let me know what I was messing up with and how to fix it. So I'd say I'd handle it pretty well. So the five topics from the course that I connected to these were my followership profile, my five values, specifically detachment, the three stages of value development, storytelling, and Clifton strengths, specifically focus. So for the first one, as far as my followership profile, as I said before, my dad was my mentor. So it was a pretty humbling experience. Of course, he's taught me a lot of things before, but now I feel like we're in a different position. I'm in a different position now because I was a kid before, and now I feel somewhat of a young adult, I guess. So I had to bow my head down and just allow him to teach me. And when I did that, it was a pretty smooth process overall. As far as the second one is my five values, specifically detachment. Because as I mentioned earlier, every time he gave me feedback, he gave me advice, he corrected me in anything. I never took anything personal. I was just doing what he told me to do, and when I messed up, I just focused on the error instead of how I felt about it. The third one is the three stages of value development, which are acceptance, preference, and commitment. That was pretty much my thought process when I decided to choose this topic. I accepted it. I know it was going to be hard. Driving an automatic car is a lot easier. You don't even think about it. So once I accepted it, preference came over. I chose a car. I purchased the car. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, teaching me the basic concepts. As I said before, a lot of FaceTime calls with my dad teaching me the concepts. So that was that part of the process. And finally, commitment. I guess the good thing about it is that, I purchased a car in South Florida, where my dad lived. And he was the one who drove it all the way to Gainesville. And then he just left. So I was pretty much stuck in here with this car. And I had no choice but to learn. So I guess that was the commitment part of it. The fourth is storytelling, because my dad, he has a pretty unique teaching style. He told me a lot of stories about times he messed up driving a stick shift when he was my age. So I was able to relate to a lot of those. That took a lot of pressure off me. That was pretty positive overall, a great leadership strategy by my dad. And the final one are the Clifton strengths, specifically focus, because as I mentioned earlier, when you drive a stick shift, you got to pay attention to a lot of things. You got to know where to put the gear specifically. There's a lot of things. It's a process. When you step inside the car, it's a whole process. And you're always thinking about driving. Well, especially in my position right now, I'm new to this, so I'm always thinking about what to do next. What gear to shift to next. So I really had to work on my focus skills. But the good thing is, it was part of my Clifton strength, so I was pretty good at it before. So those are the five concepts that I was able to relate this to the class.
All right, so it's been a little more than a week since I started really practicing with this car. Classes haven't started yet, so I've had a lot of free time, which has helped a lot. I try to have 3 FaceTime calls with my dad every week because I pretty much got the concept already. Like, I know what to do. I just need to keep repeating it and repeating it. That way I get better at it. But so far, it's been a pretty good process. It's been a little harder than what I expected. I thought it was going to be a lot easier, coming from riding a motorcycle to this. As I mentioned before, the underlying concepts are similar, but the execution, though, it's a totally different thing. Totally different thing. And I guess the main thing is just being patient, being patient, because, the car's going to stall on me a lot at the beginning. It has stalled on me a lot at the beginning. Sometimes I stop at a red light and the engine just shuts off. So, I've had to deal with that a lot of times. But I guess I'm learning. It's part of the process, and I'm really enjoying it. So far, so good.
Well, as I mentioned before, these whole process was a pretty humbling experience that taught me a lot of things about myself. But I guess the main thing is that I now understand that knowing the concept is not the same thing as having the skills. Because after watching YouTube videos, after having FaceTime calls with my dad, like I was pretty confident on what I had to do, like on the concept behind it. But once I stepped inside the car and I tried doing it, it was a completely different story. That's when I really had to work my patience, because it was pretty much a lot of repetition. Because after the first 2, 3 weeks, I knew exactly what I had to do. It was just the fact that I wasn't good at it. So that's why I said it was a pretty humbling experience that taught me a lot about myself. But at the same time, it taught me that I may not be the most patient person, but I can work on that. Like it's a skill that I can work on. It's not like I'm not patient and that's it. End of story. No, it taught me that I can work on a lot of different aspects in my life, and that's gonna help me a lot in the future. How will I use this in the future? Well, as I said before, these whole process, it took a lot of patience and it involved a lot of repetition aspects, which I think I wasn't very good at before. And I still don't think I'm good at them, but I'm a little better than I was before, so it's progress. Yeah, so those two skill sets, I can implement them in pretty much any aspect in life. I remember when I was in high school, I didn't really like history class or any class that involved like memory or a lot of repetition. That's part of the reason I decided to go for a major in economics rather than accounting or math or anything that involved like sitting down and just repeating a lot of stuff. But nevertheless, it's a skill set I need to have in my life. I don't know if my employer 10 years from now is going to require me to do a repetitive task or memorize a lot of things. So never hurts to learn that. So I'd say that was the main thing that this whole experience is going to lead for my future. Other than that, I guess the relationship with my dad really strengthened. Even though he wasn't here to teach me, it was all throughout FaceTime. It was a pretty cool process for him and for me, and it actually got me thinking, and it got me a little excited as far as me teaching my future kid how to drive a stick shift. So that was a positive aspect in the future. And I guess the last thing is though, it just feels a lot cooler to drive a stick shift. And I feel like I look a lot cooler too when I drive that car. So overall, pretty good experience.
Right, so it is pretty late at night. I just got home from work. I got my food here and everything. But yeah, it's been almost 2 months, a little more than 2 months since I really started, using this car. In fact, I had to get an oil change 2 days ago. So that means it's been almost 4,000 miles that I've driven this car in these 2 months. So a lot of practice, a lot of practice. I think I got the hang of it already. I don't want to say it's second nature at this point. I still have to think about every movement I do, but I like it though. That's the best thing about it. I'm really enjoying the process. Every time I go for a drive now, like I actually look forward to it. Just play music, drive around. I feel super cool every time I shift the gears. So yeah, I'm glad I chose this. That's my project.
Well, these experiences definitely taught me a lot of things about leadership ability, but I'd say the main thing was storytelling. Of course, I knew that storytelling was a very effective strategy for leadership, but I guess I've never implemented it, and I've never had a mentor that really implemented it with me, like my dad did in this occasion. And it was amazing because it didn't feel like I was like he was teaching me. It felt like I was having a conversation with him, and I was just getting a lot of value from his stories. And I was also able to relate to him a lot because of those. And the cool thing is, this was actually it was last week. I drove down to my parents' house for Thanksgiving. And oh, I'd say that was like my graduation, driving my six shift car on the freeway. That's pretty nerve wracking, but pretty good. I'm here. And when I was down there, I taught my sister a little bit how to drive a six shift. I was driving it, she was on the passenger seat watching me how to do it, and I was explaining everything. And my dad was on the back seat, to make sure everything went smoothly. And I implemented a lot of storytelling strategies that I got from my dad, from learning from my dad. I told her about times I messed up. Told her about times the car stalled on me on the middle of the road. One time I had to push it to a parking lot because it just died on me. So yeah, pretty much all my mess ups, I told him to her, and we had a good laugh. And she's pretty interested in driving a stiff jig now. So that was a pretty positive aspect overall about leadership strategy that this experience.